When the Holy Spirit feels distant, a weak soul's desperate prayer at midnight. The clock struck midnight, and the air thickened with suspense as shadows danced against the dim light of the flickering candle. Clara sat on the cold floor of her tiny apartment, her heart pounding like a war drum. Each tick of the clock seemed to echo her unending loneliness, a sound that filled the silence with palpable dread. How could she feel so close to God one moment and so utterly abandoned the next? Every night felt like a battle. Tonight, it felt like the last stand. Darkness wrapped around her, curling like the fingers of a ghost. The walls seemed to press in, bearing witness to her swirling thoughts. She glanced up at her small, stained glass window. It sparkled faintly but offered no comfort. Outside, the moon hung low, casting eerie shadows, while the wind howled like a wounded animal. Clara's mind drifted to all the unanswered prayers. Where was the Holy Spirit now? Did anyone hear her desperate cries? It was strange, her faith, once a roaring fire, now felt like a mere flicker. The feeling was suffocating, a weight pressing on her chest that left her breathless. Then, just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, a soft whisper slid through the icy air. It was a voice, unmistakable yet hauntingly distant. Clara, the single word sent shivers down her spine. Who was calling her? As she dared to lean closer, the shadows around her seemed to waver, as if alive. She could almost see a shape forming a face, twisted and dark. "Help me," it pleaded in a voice both sorrowful and familiar. Tears welled in her eyes, confusion spiraling within her. This wasn't the voice she sought in prayers. Something was terribly wrong. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She squeezed her eyes shut, but the voice grew louder, an urgency lacing its tone. You can't hide from me, Clara. I am your darkness. The room twisted like a funhouse mirror, and Clara felt her teeth clench, her hands trembling. Thoughts ran wild in her mind. What was happening? Panic surged within her as she fought the growing sense of dread. Could she actually be losing her mind, or was there something more sinister at play? Gathering what little strength she had, Clara lifted her face to the ceiling, her voice rising against the shadows. I just want to feel you again. Where are you? But her words hung in the air, wrapped in the heavy silence like lost whispers in a tomb. The walls breathed in the void left by her faith, and the shape in the dark seemed to inch closer, a terrible specter in response to her plea. Was this what it felt like to be abandoned entirely? It was a question that clawed at her heart as the shadows threatened to engulf her once more. What did this voice want from her? Would she find the strength to face it, or would her midnight prayer lead her down a path she had no desire to tread? The shadows coiled and twisted around Clara like serpents, each one tightening around her body, pulling her further into their suffocating embrace. Her heart raced while her breath caught in her throat, the voice echoing in her mind, I am your darkness. It was as though her fears had materialized into a horrifying entity, determined to drag her down into a pit of despair. Leave me alone, she cried, her voice breaking against the looming dread. But the moment the words left her lips, they felt empty, swallowed by the thick silence that followed. Alone. A word she had been familiar with for too long. Moments passed, or perhaps it was mere seconds, and yet they stretched into eternity as Clara's world narrowed to just her and the ominous figure creeping from the shadows. She trembled, feeling frantic. What do you want? She whispered, her resolve weakening. To show you. The figure rasped, the sound scraping against her very soul. To show you the truth. Clara hesitated, caught between the fear of what the truth might reveal and a glimmer of desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, what lay ahead could bring peace. The figure shimmered in the gloom, a grotesque parody of familiarity that tugged at her memory. It wasn't just darkness, it was her darkness, steeped in regret, fear, and loss. "Why now?" she asked, barely able to keep her voice steady, her thoughts racing. "Why do you come to me now?" "Because you called for me," it replied, its voice layered with echoes of her own pleas. "You wanted to feel again the fire, the connection. But you've hidden it so well. You've locked it away, refusing to confront the pain." The walls around her vibrated, trembling at the weight of the truth that hung heavily in the air. She felt the heat of her past staring her down, igniting the flicker of her faith as she shivered beneath the dark presence. "I didn't want to remember. I needed to forget. But forgetting comes with a price," it hissed, advancing closer. Clara felt the need to flee, but her body remained motionless, shackled by the intensity of the moment. The distorted face morphed, revealing old portraits of her lost opportunities, the faces of loved ones she had pushed away, holding a mirror to her soul. In a rush, memories flooded in her mother's soft touch, the warmth of Sunday worship, the laughter shared with friends, and the crushing loneliness that followed. All those moments, however painful, became snapshots stitched into the fabric of her existence. As each memory surfaced, the shadows around her flickered, struggling against the brightness they threatened to eclipse. "I can't face them," she cried, tears streaming down her face as the weight of her fears threatened to bury her. "I'm not strong enough." "Strength comes from acceptance," the figure said, softening just for a moment. "Do you wish to remain shackled to your past, or will you rise from it?" Suddenly, a surge of light burst through, illuminating the room, a stinging contrast to the oppressive darkness. Clara shielded her eyes, gasping as hope ignited within her, battling against the shadows that threatened to cling to her every emotion. "Choose," the voice urged, its tone now softer, an invitation rather than a command. Amidst the chaos inside her, Clara felt a flicker of resolve. Could she truly stand against the tide of her past and embrace the truth? The answer shimmered beyond the veil, lighting the way just ahead. With newfound determination, she breathed deeply, readying herself for the struggle that lay ahead. As she opened her eyes to face the darkness, a surge of energy pulsed through her enough to carve her own path. But before she could speak, the voice intertwined with countless others whispered through her mind, "You may wish to forget, but the truth is waiting and it will not be denied." The shadows recoiled, yet the figure remained, its presence still looming, and Clara felt as if she stood at the edge of a vast chasm. Dare she leap into the unknown where hidden truths awaited her? The answer hung in the air as the shadows danced provocatively around her, daring her to take that plunge, daring her to embrace the darkest depths of her soul. Would she find healing, or would she succumb entirely to that treacherous darkness? The moment had come. The moment Clara opened her eyes, the light blazed like a heavenly beacon, dispelling the darkness swirling around her. The figure faltered, its form wavering as the shadows around it writhed in anguish. Clara felt the heat of the light against her skin, invigorating, awakening long-dormant courage. She drew in a deep breath, forcing past the fear that buried deep in her chest. "Show me the truth," she shouted, her voice ringing clear and resolute in the oppressive silence. "I won't shy away any longer." As the words left her lips, there was a sudden turbulence. The shadows recoiled, twisting and pulsating like a dark sea in a tempest. The face of the figure twisted, revealing not just her fears but also her greatest regrets, each shadow morphing into a memory that drilled painfully into her heart. She saw her mother, worn and weary, stroking her hair during sleepless nights. Grief hung heavy in the air. The figure contorted, morphing into the pleading eyes of a friend she had forsaken. Clara staggered back as the pain struck like lightning. "No!" she cried out, clutching her head. Her heart pounded violently within her ribcage, a frantic call for salvation. The figure's voice clawed at her. "You think you can forget? You think ignoring the hurt will heal you? It is time to awaken." The shadows whispered secrets, taunting her bravery, revealing her isolation. The past coiled around her, wrapping like a chokehold, but Clara recalled the warmth, the light she had felt moments ago. "You're wrong," she screamed, her voice breaking through the turmoil. "I won't be trapped by you." A rush of warmth surged through her as she pushed back against the suffocating grip of her memories. Suddenly, she felt the ground beneath her shift as the room trembled. Walls folded inwards, and the faintest sound of distant laughter wafted through the air, memories clawing their way into her mind like desperate hands. Those joyful moments pulsed with life, calling her away from the treacherous grip of the figure. "Embrace them, Clara," a deeper voice echoed, clearing the cacophony around her. "Let go of the fear." With determination anew, she clenched her fists. "I will not let you win," she yelled defiantly, feeling the heat of the light at her core grow stronger. Pocketing the pain of her past, she allowed the sweet laughter of friends and family to burst forth like an explosion, casting the shadows back. "Your strength fuels the light," the figure screeched, its expression twisting into one of furious desperation. "You are powerless without me." "Not anymore," Clara roared, racing forward. As she did, she felt the weight of countless hands slipping from her grasp, their voices dissipating into the air. The figure lunged, but in the blinding glow, Clara could see it falter. With one last push, she reached for the core of the light, letting it envelop her entirely. The figure disintegrated into a pool of darkness, scattering like ashes in the wind. Clara stood firm, the light cascading through her body, drowning out the haunting echoes of regret and shame. Yet, even in that moment of triumph, the landscape shifted again. A doorway materialized before her, a threshold to the unknown that glimmered enticingly. She could feel the warmth of hope beckoning her forward, but doubts tried to creep in. "What lies beyond?" she murmured, her bravado fading just a hint. As she took a step closer, the whispers returned, more sinister now. The shadows were not fully gone, they circled the edges of her vision, promising solace while lurking with desire to tug her back. Beneath that doorway, a darkness stirred, whispering that acceptance could come at a greater price. Clara stood on the verge of uncertainty, the light flickering around her. With her heart pounding, she asked the mansion of memories behind her, "Is this my new beginning or just another trap?" The question hung in the air as the door creaked open slowly, revealing an expanse of shimmering possibilities beyond. A chill ran down her spine as she peered into the darkness, not sure which direction her future would take. What she had just conquered loomed behind her, but what awaited her might be more terrifying than the shadow that clung to her. As the door whispered her name, she faced the force that could either illuminate her path or plunge her further into despair. What would she find on the other side? Clara stood at the threshold, her heart racing like a trapped bird. The door beckoned her with splendor, hinting at answers, even as a cold chill crawled up her spine. "This is it," she breathed, unsure if it was a prayer or a curse. Each beat of her heart echoed in the silence. The darkness beyond wasn't just an absence of light, it felt alive, pulsating with a strange energy that sent shivers through her core. She could almost hear it whispering, "Come, Clara, discover the truth." With each tentative step, the light flickered uncertainly behind her. The shadows hung close, a chorus of voices threatening to pull her back into their depths. She clenched her fists, the warmth of newfound courage battling against the creeping fear. "I can't go back," she murmured, resolute. "Not now." As the door swung wider, a gust of cool air filled her lungs, mingling with the burning remnants of her past. The first sensation that hit her was electricity, buzzing around her feet, inviting exploration. She stepped in, embracing the strange sensation. The world inside was a contrast to the chaos left behind. Ethereal light danced around, swirling in myriad colors, illuminating an expanse that felt infinite yet curiously contained. It made her vibrant energy thrum under her skin. Keeping her gaze steady, she ventured deeper into this kaleidoscopic wilderness, unsure of what awaited her. Then came the voices. They were softer now, not accusations but echoes of understanding. Clara paused, straining to catch the whispers. "Your choice is your pain, they guide you." Faces began to emerge, flickering before her like old film reels. Friends, family, familiar yet foreign. Each visage beckoned, offering assurance, unraveling the knots of despair she carried. But another presence lingered, dark and insidious, lurking behind them. The shadows twisted, threatening to consume the light like an insatiable beast. "Stay strong, Clara." A voice she recognized called to her. It was her friend Sophie, who had once stood by her side but faded away through time and unspoken words. "You're not alone." The warmth of those words encircled Clara like a gentle hug, filling the void with something tender and true. "Look closer," another voice urged, and as Clara focused, she glimpsed layers underneath the surface. Darker memories buried deep in her mind tremored to life. Fragments of guilt and sorrow began to surface alongside the love. There was a choice in front of her to confront this haunting existence or fade back into the shadows. But at that moment, everything escalated. The chilling figure from before re-emerged, now a swirling mass of darkness that threatened to engulf the light surrounding her. "You think this is a sanctuary?" It screeched, laughter twisting with bitterness. "You are merely a pawn in the game of your own making." Clara's heart thundered, she felt the hair on her arms rise. "No!" she shouted, a surge of defiance roaring within her. "I've fought too hard to turn back." As shadows rushed forward, she felt empowered by the hope and love that erupted from her memories. She thrust her hands forward, summoning the brilliance she had found in her darkest hours. An explosion of radiant light burst forth, illuminating the swirling darkness that threatened to consume her. The echoing laughter turned to screams as the shadows writhed in pain, retreating against the power of her burgeoning strength. The light grew brighter, nearly blinding, pushing the figure back, but Clara knew there was still so much to uncover. "No!" she shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. "What more must I face?" The darkness writhed violently, twisting and reshaping. Just as she thought victory was hers, a chilling voice whispered, "You think it's over? Your reckoning has just begun." And with that, Clara felt the ground tremble beneath her. The very fabric of reality began to unravel, and she braced herself, questioning what this true reckoning would demand of her. Would it be too much? Looming darkness beckoned her forward, and she steeled herself for what lay ahead. Could she trust in the light this time, or would the shadows pull her deeper into despair? The air crackled with tension as the ground continued to shake underneath Clara's feet. She staggered, her heart racing anew in a wild rhythm that echoed the chaos around her. Light flickered like a dying candle, desperately holding off the encroaching darkness. The shadows howled, swirling like a tempest, taunting her resolve. "Face your demons, Clara," chimed a sweet voice that felt both comforting and chilling, like a favorite melody turned sour. Clara looked around, searching the swirling abyss for the source. Her breath hitched as she realized the faces that had once brought her solace now twisted into items of horror. "You can't escape the truth," they seemed to hiss, their eyes hollow, reflecting her deepest fears. "Is it true?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Am I really just a pawn?" But before she could dwell, the mass of darkness lunged at her with blinding speed. It was as if the shadows were sentient, hungry for her fear. Clara braced herself, grounding herself in the love she had felt moments before. Each heartbeat drummed a steady reminder of her strength, pushing back against the allure of despair. "I choose my path," she shouted, clenching her fists. The darkness screeched, a horrible, metallic sound that tore through her resolve. With a wave of her arm, Clara directed her light forward. It surged out, furious and bold, but the shadows surged back with equal ferocity. She felt the strain, the push and pull of her essence battling against the dark. Sweat trickled down her spine, each drop amplifying the throbbing pain in her chest. Just then, a blinding flash erupted. Clara squinted, her eyes almost stinging from the sheer power. The darkness faltered, and for the briefest moment, the faces she had seen before melted away, revealing familiar echoes of joy. Those moments running through the park, laughter shared over coffee, countless memories woven through her life crashed against her like waves, each one stripping away her doubts. Embrace your light. Sophie's voice rang clear through the chaos. Remember who you are. Suddenly, the ground split beneath her, dividing the shimmering light from the suffocating shadows. Clara was flung forward, gasping, trying to balance between two worlds. Her thoughts raced. Was it worth the fight? Could she truly conquer the darkness that sought to unravel her? As she balanced at the precipice, she caught sight of shadowy tendrils creeping toward her, as if trying to reach into her soul. Panic clawed at her throat, but a quiet voice inside urged her to look beyond the immediate terror. Remember the warmth it whispered, wrapping around her like a well-worn blanket. She let herself envision the love and laughter from her past, each fragment igniting a spark in her heart. Enough! Clara screamed, infusing her voice with every ounce of emotion. The light flared brighter. She felt it rushing through her, illuminating the darkest corners of her mind. The shadows shrieked, recoiling, their insidious tendrils dissipating in the brilliance. Clara took a brave step forward, deep into the shadows, disregarding her own fear. I'll confront you. I will not run. Abruptly, the ground trembled again, this time with a different intensity. It felt as if the darkness was collapsing in on itself, layers beneath her rippling and quaking. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. Was this her moment? Was the darkness truly unraveling? But just as her triumph seemed within reach, a booming voice echoed through the swirl of chaos. Foolish girl! You have only scratched the surface. With that, the ground beneath her feet erupted, and Clara lost her grip, falling into a void that threatened to swallow her whole. The floor disappeared, giving way to a vortex of swirling colors that clashed violently against each other. In freezing terror, she grasped for something, anything to hold on to. What awaited her in the depths of this new darkness? Would she be swallowed whole, or find a hidden light? Clara plunged into the unknown, her body weightless. The world around her spun like a kaleidoscope, a riot of color and shadow that twisted her stomach into knots. She gasped, the rush of air battling her lungs as the sheer force of the descent enveloped her. The voices, her friends, their laughter, their encouragement faded, swallowed by the cacophony of the swirling void. She had thought she was ready to confront the darkness, but now dread clawed at her mind. What if I can't come back? The question echoed in her head, a persistent whisper that wrapped around her like a vice. The weight of uncertainty pressed down harder than any physical force she had encountered. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. Suddenly, a fierce wind howled, wrapping around her, tugging at her clothes. Panic surged. Hold on. Don't let go. Clara screamed into the void, the sound lost in the chaos around her. As the colors collided and merged, they began to form shapes, distorted faces, those once familiar now twisted in anguish. She fought against the tide, reaching out towards the faces that twisted into her memories. I know you. She cried, desperate for connection. But each visage crumbled like sandcastles beneath crashing waves as she tried to grasp them. Please, don't leave me. I just want to remember. Falling deeper, Clara felt the temperature plummet. A chill that penetrated her bones settled in, feeding her anxiety. Yet, in the midst of the biting cold, a flicker of warmth ignited in her chest. It was a small, persistent glow, reminding her that she had once stood tall against the darkness. Embrace your light. Sophie's voice rang again, a faint echo in her heart, shouting against the storm of shadows. Clara forced herself to remember every joyful moment, the vibrant smiles of her friends, the warmth of family gatherings, the quiet times filled with love. I am not just fear. I am also strength. She declared, the resonance of her voice cutting through the din with a sudden clarity. She recalled the day she had stood beneath the sun, feeling it soak into her skin. I am brighter than this darkness. The light within her swelled, roaring to life as it cascaded outward. It pushed against the shadows, forcing them to recoil and screech in pain. But her surge of confidence was met with fierce resistance. A powerful undertow grasped her, threatening to pull her down into the swirling abyss. The more she shone, the angrier the shadows grew. "You think you can defeat me?" The voice boomed through the chaos, heavy and thick with menace. "This is just the beginning." She felt something sharp pierce her heart, a jab of pain and uncertainty that cut her light. As she clutched her chest, she realized she felt fear again, raw and suffocating, like vines wrapping around her throat. What if I lose everyone again? Just then, a new sound emerged, a whisper. Soft, almost a lull. "Clara." The darkness parted slightly, revealing a figure bathed in a nurturing glow. It was a silhouette, familiar yet shrouded in an ethereal haze. "It's time to find what truly lies within." Clara's heart raced, igniting a spark of hope amid the despair. Who are you?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Your true self," the figure replied, a hand extended, inviting her forward into the light. With a hesitant step, Clara reached for it, uncertainty flickering in her gaze. Would she embrace the truth of her own being, or would the shadows consume her before she could break free? The moment hung in the balance, thick with potential, as she faced the embodiment of her greatest fears and her deepest truths. What awaited Clara if she chose to step into the light? Would the depth of her own strength be enough to turn the tides, or was she destined to be lost forever in the chaos? Clara's fingers trembled as she reached towards the glowing figure. The warmth emanating from it drew her in, igniting a flicker of courage deep within her. I want to know," she breathed, her voice trembling like the light around her. The figure smiled, a gentle curve that calmed Clara's racing heart. "Then take my hand," it urged, and, in that moment, the void darkened even more, shadows swirling like a tempest around her. With a burst of resolve, Clara grasped the figure's hand. The instant their skin touched, a surge of energy coursed through her, the warmth enveloping her entire being. She felt the shadows retreat slightly, hissing as if they feared the light she had just discovered. Suddenly, the chaos quieted, and she was pulled into a brilliant landscape, an endless field of flowers, vibrant and alive. Light danced upon each petal, illuminating the entire realm in ethereal beauty. Clara gasped, wonder flooding her senses. "Is this real?" "Yes," the figure replied, now stepping forward and revealing a face her own, yet somehow transformed. She looked strong and confident, a radiant version of herself she'd never seen. "This is the truth of who you are. You must embrace it." "But how?" Clara's voice wavered, doubts creeping back in. "What if I lose it? What if the darkness comes back?" The figure's expression softened, understanding her fear deeply. "You are not just light or just darkness. You are both, Clara. Embrace your wholeness. In accepting all parts of yourself, you find true strength." As Clara absorbed those words, the surrounding beauty dimmed momentarily, shadows creeping back, threatening to engulf the brightness. "I've failed before," she confessed, her voice breaking. "I've let the darkness take hold." With an intensity that radiated both warmth and power, the figure held Clara's gaze. "What if failures are simply lessons? Each scar, each break has shaped you. Use them. Stand tall even when you feel small." A sudden rush of memories surged within Clara, moments of both triumph and defeat, echoes of laughter intertwined with tears. They formed a tapestry of her life, each thread essential. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight lift, replaced by a newfound clarity. "I am both my wounds and my victories," she affirmed, her voice growing steadier, and just like that, the scene shifted once more. The field faded into a swirling vortex, colors colliding and whirling together, yet Clara found herself standing rooted, unyielding against the tide. "I'm ready," she shouted, the declaration ripping through the chaos. "I refuse to let the shadows define me." In that moment, light exploded from her core, a magnificent blaze that lit up the darkness. The vicious whispers screamed in agony as they were blasted back, giving way to her brilliance. Clara kept pushing, channeling every ounce of her will, every fear transformed into strength. But then a rumble echoed, a sinister wave gathering force behind her, as if the shadows were regrouping for one final assault. "Foolish girl!" the voice roared, reverberating through the void. "You cannot escape us." Clara felt her heart race in response, yet stood defiantly, a wall of light against the encroaching dark. The figure beside her shimmered, lending its strength. "You have the power to fight back. Trust yourself." Just as the shadows lunged forward with a breath-stealing fury, Clara's resolve crystallized. "No!" she screamed, and, with a wave of conviction, she pushed against the darkness. "You do not own me." The light surrounding her blazed brighter than ever, tearing through the void, illuminating the shadows that tried to engulf her. Yet, deep in her soul, fear still refilled her heart. What if she wasn't strong enough? In that heartbeat, the world around her crumbled, leaving her suspended at the precipice of two realms. Which would she fall into? And as she held her breath, everything hung in the balance, waiting for her choice to ignite the next chapter of her fight. Would she shatter the darkness once and for all, or would it consume her again? Clara felt the tug of the abyss, the swirling shadows beckoning her like an ominous tide. The air thickened, electrifying with the fight that hung in the balance. Should she succumb and plunge into the familiar dark, or stand her ground against it? With every fiber of her being, she focused on the light coursing through her veins. "I am more than my fears," she yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos like a beacon. The glowing figure beside her, her own transformed self, beamed with pride, and then, as if summoned by her declaration, the shadows recoiled, shrinking back in response to her surge of defiance. Clara could feel the power beneath her, a rhythm of strength building, pulsing through the air around her, resilience she had never tapped into before, but that pulse brought with it a sharp whisper from the darkness, seductive and chilling. "You think strength will save you?" it hissed, each word dripping with malice. "Look at yourself, tiny, fragile. You cannot fight the storm." Clara's resolve wavered as uncertainty clawed at her heart. Doubt trickled in like a cold, creeping fog. She glanced at the beautiful landscape that now shimmered with a threatening flicker. What if the darkness was right? What if she entirely misjudged herself? "Clara," the figure urged, its voice a soothing balm against her strife, "you can wield the storm. Remember your scars, each one tells of your survival. Breathe life into your truth." She inhaled deeply, remembering the battles she had faced, the isolation, the failures, the moments of sheer helplessness. Each memory was a knot of pain, but tied together, they formed a rope she could use to climb. Her heart soared as she recalled not just her fears but her victories too. "I know who I am," Clara shouted again, stronger this time. "I will not be a prisoner of my past." The shadows roared, a choir of rage fueled by her defiance. They surged forward, thick and twisting, slashing at the air, but Clara stood steady, the light wrapped around her like armor. The world around her began to quake, the colors mixing violently, clashing in a frenzied dance. "They can't take this from me," she thought, summoning every ounce of will within. The near-opaque dark was closing in, but the blinding brilliance of her light pierced through it. Clara's light expanded outward, bright and unwavering, as if it were a sun rising over a storm-tossed sea. Yet in that triumphant moment, dread seeped back into her bones. The shadows began to transform, taking on grotesque forms, faces twisted in pain and anger, grinning wide with sharp teeth, clawing at her spirit. She shook her head, refusing to give in. She would not let fear captivate her, but the onslaught was relentless, the shadows whispering those familiar doubts once more, louder now. "You think you can control us? The darkness is within you. You've run from it. But it knows you, Clara, it knows your secrets. I will face it," she yelled, her voice echoing across the tumultuous land, a rallying cry bursting out of her chest. But a sliver of apprehension nipped at her spine. The ground beneath her buckled, severing her connection to the land of light. Clara felt suspended mid-air, uprooted from her newfound strength as her luminous sphere began to flicker. "Hold on!" the figure cried, its glow shimmering like a candle in the wind. As Clara hung there, the choice loomed within her grasp, a chance to plunge into the festering shadows or fight for the light she knew she had. Would she pay the price of vulnerability for the chance to emerge whole? The decision sparked just as the ground below gave way completely, plunging Clara into the heart of the darkness, leaving her senses reeling and her mind racing. What awaited her in the depths? Was there still a way back, or had she sealed her fate in the very heart of despair? Clara tumbled through a void, plunging deeper into the darkness that enveloped her. The air thickened, heavy with an oppressive dread that pressed down on her chest. She was lost, unraveling in a world stripped of light. Panic gnawed at her mind, a relentless siren shrieking, "What have you done?" Suddenly, the falling stopped. She landed hard, sending a jolt through her body. The ground beneath her was cold and unyielding, devoid of color, a deep gray that pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Clara struggled to rise, her limbs trembling as she searched for any sign of hope, any flicker of brilliance to guide her. "Hello?" she called, her voice almost swallowed by the nothingness, echoing back like a taunt. Shadows swirled around her, whispering secrets she wished she could ignore, memories of her failures, her insecurities, each one blending into a howling cacophony of doubt. "Face it, Clara," the air hissed, tendrils of darkness curling around her. "You want to fight? How can you fight what you are? I won't give in." She shouted, but her voice shook, revealing cracks in her facade. The darkness responded with a low, menacing laugh that surrounded her like a smothering blanket. She felt slipping. It was as though she could see parts of her spirit fracturing, breaking away into the void. Just a few steps back, she had felt so powerful, bold enough to take on the shadows. Now, standing alone in this abyss, doubt surged through her like icy water, numbing and cruel. Clara dropped to her knees, the rush of memories cascading over her like a waterfall. Each face of her past loomed over her friends turned away, moments of rejection, the sting of betrayal. They were all here, watching her fail. A silence settled in, heavy and stifling. "Why?" she whispered, voice barely audible, choked with despair. "Why can't I just escape this?" A flash of light pierced through the darkness, momentarily scattering the shadows. The figure from her vision, the glowing reflection of herself, materialized beside her. Its eyes shone with an intensity that cut through her fog. "Look within, Clara. You have always had the light. You just need to remember how to wield it." She took a deep breath. "But I'm terrified. What if I'm not strong enough?" "Strength doesn't come from an absence of fear," the figure offered, its voice calm yet firm. "It's the courage to confront it." As darkness crawled closer, Clara clenched her fists, and anger rose within her. "I'm tired of hiding," she yelled, lifting her head. "I'm more than the sum of my fears." The darkness shrieked in response, claws snatching at her, trying to pull her down once more. Clara stood and raised her arms into the air, summoning every spark of light that flickered within her heart. She could feel it, the warmth spreading like wildfire as she rekindled her spirit. With a scream that shattered the silence, Clara released the energy, pushing the light outward. It exploded in a brilliant burst, illuminating the void and casting the grotesque shadows back, shrieking in agony. For a brief moment, she was untouchable, but the relief was fleeting. The shadows twisted and morphed, whispering threats that pierced through her heart. "You are nothing without us. You cannot escape what you truly are." Clara's light flickered. The shadows lunged, wrapping around her ankles, dragging her back towards the ground. She fought them with clawed determination, but they felt like chains, cutting deep. The flood of anguish nearly drowned her. In that split second of despair, the world around her shifted. She felt the solid ground morphing beneath her, a new terrain where she could either thrive or sink. "Hold on!" her reflection shouted, its voice merging with the cacophony around her. "You have the strength. You can either embrace this or be consumed by it. Trembling, Clara steadied herself. The uncertainty weighed heavily in the air, thick as smoke. Was she truly ready? As she wrestled with her decision, the shadows slithered closer, grimacing, eager to snatch her back into their fray. Would she embrace the light and face her demons, or would she buckle under the weight of her fears and succumb? The darkness loomed, ready to swallow her. And for the first time, Clara could feel the choice slipping through her fingers as she fought to hold on to her faith in herself. Clara stood on shaky ground surrounded by chaos, the darkness swirling around her like a storm. Her heart raced, the adrenaline pumping through her veins as she could feel every shadow latching onto her, whispering its poison. Each pulse of fear threatened to drown her, but she was wrestling not just with shadows, she was grappling with herself. The figure of her luminous alter ego shimmered beside her, a beacon of hope. "You're stronger than this," it urged, encouraging clarity amidst the din. "You've faced darkness and emerged. Do it again." The shadows responded with a furious roar, a cacophony of doubt and sorrow that clawed at her resolve. Clara tightened her fists and took a deep breath, emerging from her suffocating despair. "I'm done being afraid," she shouted, her voice steadying. She felt warmth building within her, igniting the flickering light in her core. "Show me," she declared, choice crystallizing in her mind. "I refuse to be defined by you." With each word, Clara summoned the power of all her memories, gathering moments of love, laughter, and acceptance. The faces of her family and friends danced before her, melding into a vivid tapestry of resilience. They weren't just shadows of the past, they were a lifeline that pulled her upward, surrounding her in a warmth that felt like an embrace. The swirling darkness hesitated, grumbling as Clara took a step forward. "I may have suffered, but I also fought," she shouted, the flames of her determination rising higher. "I've loved, I've lost, but I've also learned." As she spoke, light burst from her, illuminating the void with a dazzling radiance. The shadows screeched, recoiling from the intensity, their grasp softening. "You can't take this from me," Clara shouted, her voice now thunderous. "This is my truth." The figure next to her transformed further, showing a bold version of herself. Clara reached out, her hand meeting the light of her own reflection. The connection was electric, pulling her deeper into a well of courage she never thought she had. "Remember who you are," the figure encouraged, eyes burning with fierce clarity. "I won't let my past dictate my future." Clara bellowed, newfound strength surging through her limbs. Shadows continued to twist and writhe, wrapping around her, but she pushed them back, fighting with every ounce of her being. The darkness roared in betrayal as Clara became an unstoppable force. The light burst forth like a sunrise, flooding the darkness and dissolving it into nothingness. The shadows screamed, their forms dissipating as Clara stood at the center, radiant and resolute. "I am more than fear. I am hope, I am love, I am light." With one final declaration, Clara felt the remnants of darkness fade, extinguished by her clarity and conviction. In its wake, a beautiful garden bloomed, vibrant flowers shimmering with the colors of life, a testament to her journey. Breathing in the fragrance of blooming petals, Clara stood still, overwhelmed by the beauty she had fought for. "Is it really over?" she whispered, her heart swelling with cautious hope. The soft figure beside her smiled encouragingly. "Every ending is a new beginning." With steps of grace and confidence, Clara wandered through this place of light and joy. She could hear laughter, voices she recognized, calling her back to connection, to the warmth of love. Wherever she walked, the ground sparkled beneath her, miracles were unfolding in the moments she embraced. As she ventured further, Clara searched out her own voice, ready to reconnect with her past but not defined by it. She would forge new connections, embrace the love around her, and never shy away from the lessons learned. Finally, she stopped, looking back toward the path of darkness she had emerged from. No longer did fear cling to her, the shadows had not defeated her. "Thank you," she whispered gently, not ashamed to honor what had been. The shadows were part of her story but no longer drove the narrative. They were simply lessons, reminders of the strength she'd gained in overcoming them. Clara turned back, ready to step into the vibrant world that lay before her. She recognized her journey was ongoing, filled with twists and turns, but she was ready. She knew she carried the light within, the future held endless possibilities, and Clara breathed deeply, embracing the beauty of her life, past, present, and future intertwined. The light glimmered in her heart, echoing the whisper of hope. This is just the beginning. Don't forget. This is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could light up your journey. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let them know you loved this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Clara's journey. We want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Be a part of this community, and keep the light shining.